Hello, I'm Russell, and welcome to Our Working City, a new series of Thelma podcasts which hears from folk across Edinburgh about their lived experiences of work in decades past. The series has been created as part of a citywide project celebrating 900 years of Edinburgh's borough status established by King David I in 1124. In this first episode, Kenneth Williamson remembers his working life as a bookkeeper and accountant at an Edinburgh legal firm. Kenneth recalls his upbringing and school days in Granton, which was a far cry from the Newtown office he would end up working from. He remembers the working practices and social attitudes of the 60s and 70s and the changes he saw into the 80s and 90s. But first, it's back to Kenneth's formative years in Granton, where his story begins.
I grew up in Granton. We actually lived in Granton Terrace, and Granton at that time was a very interesting place. It was very industrial. We had coal trains coming in, we had sparkle grass boats coming in, we had oil tankers coming in, we had 2 oil refineries in the place, and of course up the hill we had the Granton Gasworks. So there was lots to keep us amused. We did a lot of fishing off the eastern breakwater, and from there we could watch the ships coming in and out. We also had trawlers coming in, so the whole place was very interesting for a young boy. We tended to play amongst the trains, which nowadays would probably be frowned upon. To my recollection, nobody was actually ever hit by a coal wagon, train or anything else. I think we might have had a wee bit more sense in these days. One of the interesting things at the beginning of the Middle Pier, Granton Middle Pier, was a Hardy's Sweetie shop. Now, Hardy's Sweetie shop, you had to cross the railway lines to buy your sweets, cigarettes, newspaper, etc. And that included ladies bouncing prams over the railway lines to get to Hardy's Sweetie shop.
Did you have everything that you needed there as a community? You know, everything that you needed on your doorstep?
Yes, everything was there. As I say, we had Hardy's Sweetie shop. Further along the lower Granton Road, there was a shop. It was actually a cafe where the men went in and had their tea, bacon rolls, etc. But they also sold fishing hooks, and we would go down there and buy our fishing hooks, and then we would carry on and go along the eastern breakwater. The only remit that we had from our parents was to make sure that we got home and never fell in to the harbour. But other than that, I don't think the parents actually bothered about you till you came home.
Did you think that you would end up working in a trade or an industry that was based in Granton when you were little?
No. To be honest, no. When we went to our secondary school, we had no choice, because you were either going to be an apprentice in Bruce Peebles or you were going to be an apprentice in Ferrantes. There was no choice for anybody coming out of Granton and Royston. That was something that I was never very happy about, purely and simply because when I was younger I suffered from infantile eczema and I was not allowed to touch anything that was dirty like wood, metal, etc, etc. But unfortunately the school, it never registered with the school. It
sounds a little bit like your fate had been decided by the school because that's how it had always been, kind of thing.
Correct. As soon as you went up to Ainsley Park, the secondary school, I went to Granton School, the primary school first of all, and that was something that I was never happy about. I never wanted to go to be in Ferrantes, I never wanted to be in Bruce Peebles, but that was your fate. But fate had something different for me in store.
So how did your education, your schooling, prepare you for work then? If it wasn't going to be going down the road of engineering or anything industrial, how did it turn out?
I was always interested in geography, history and stuff like that. After secondary school, you were told you had to do either history or geography. Everything was, you were told what you were to do, which I was not the best at school of taking orders.
Was there a teacher or someone in the school who recognised the potential that you described that you felt you had and helped you on your journey of education?
Yes. I used to work as a milk boy. One Saturday morning I collapsed and was seriously ill, so much so that I almost lost a leg, but fortunately I didn't, and I did lose a year at school, so I was put back a year, and that turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me, because I got put into a commercial class, and I learnt bookkeeping. A very, very nice Polish teacher who recognised that I could do accounts, etc. And from there on in, that's what I did. I managed to do something that I liked. I seemed to have a sort of thing about figures and accounts, etc., etc. And that is the path that she put me on, which I was eternally grateful for that.
Could you tell me about how that pathway took you into the world of work?
Well, funny enough, I lost a year in school. I went back a year in school, and I really couldn't get out of school fast enough, but I didn't have any idea as to what I really wanted to do. But someone from the legal profession came to the school. They were looking for an accountant, a bookkeeper, etc., whatever. And I thought, well, wait a minute, this is exactly what I want to do. So I got an application form, and again, we had a very, very good careers teacher. I can't remember their names now, and she helped me fill in the form. And I then, from there, went for an interview and was asked what I would like to do. I said I'd love to do accounts. And from there, I was taken up the street, in Glenfinlay Street, introduced to my new employer, and 45 years later, I left the legal profession. I stayed in the same firm for 45 years, and I had found my niche in life. And I was fortunate, but then sometimes fate has these things worked out for you.
I'm conscious that, you've described your background, growing up in Granton, and the things that were expected of boys and young men in that community. And here you are up in the new town.
Yes.
In a smart legal firm.
Yes.
What was that like to begin with?
Interesting. I had long hair. I was anti-establishment. And here I was in one of the top legal firms in Edinburgh. I was told to call everybody sir, which I refused to do. I was constantly told to get my hair cut. I was sent out to get my hair cut. On numerous occasions, I came back with my hair cut with about an inch off it. And eventually the firm decided, we'll just leave him. And 45 years later, I was still there, still doing accounts.
We're talking about, the 1960s?
1968, 1st of July 1968, I left school on the Friday and I started working on the Monday, which kind of annoyed me because I never got my 6-week summer holidays. But yes, I moved with people who were high up.
I'm intrigued to hear a little bit more about this kind of non-deferential personality and how you made yourself fit in. Or was it just a personality thing that they saw that you were good at what you were doing?
I think about both. My boss did not like anybody working with him and could be a wee bit confrontational, but he met his match in me because I could be as confrontational as him. And we eventually kind of came to an agreement that we would get on with each other, and he taught me how to do accounts. I'm actually a Scottish Law Accountant. I dealt with trusts and all sorts of stuff. I think the office did see the potential in me. They also saw that I was a wee bit of a rebel. But I was never disrespectful. I did my job, did everything that was asked of me, but I just did not kowtow to anybody. But as I say, I enjoyed working in the legal profession. It was great, met a lot of great people, a lot of very influential people. The strange thing is, all the teaching that I got, I still do that today. I write emails, I write letters as if I'm writing a formal letter to a client. It's never been knocked out of me. But yeah, it was very interesting. I enjoyed it.
What I'm sensing then is that you felt that you had a good training in this firm, that it set you up.
Yeah, so definitely. It was hard at times, and as I say, I did get myself into a wee bit of bother and being asked to come up the stair. But funny enough, by me taking a stance, it paved the way for people to have long hair. I'm not saying hippies, but it allowed people to have a beard, a moustache, etc. Because in my time, you had to ask for permission to grow a moustache or a beard. If you came back from holiday with a growth, a beard or whatever, first thing you'd do, you'd be up the stairs to the senior partner and you'd be asked to shave it off. These were the days. You weren't allowed even to take your jacket off in the office. Even if it was a sweltering hot day, you still had to keep your jacket on. And yeah, a lot of people nowadays might say, oh, that's this and this is that or whatever. It's the way it was, and it's what you accepted. To this day, before I left, I retired in 2013, I refused not to wear a tie. We were issued an order that said that you don't need to wear a tie anymore as long as you've got your suit on. I never did that. I always wore a tie because to me, you looked as if you never went home last night if you turned up in the office without a tie. You've got to have these standards. And yeah, okay, I was a wee bit of a rebel, whatever. I understood the standards and I kept to these standards.
Can you tell me a little bit about what the job was like in the beginning and how it progressed and changed in terms of your role and what you had to do?
Well, as I say, I started on the 1st of July 1968. We had no seat. We had to go into the lane in Randolph Lane, and we went into what used to be the stables, and it was like the Antique Roadshow. You just picked a chair, literally picked a chair. We sat at a boardroom table. We had no desks. We all just sat at one boardroom table. That was that. The chap who was my boss, he used an adding machine, and every time he used the adding machine, the whole table shook. So if you were writing, your writing went all over the place. We hand wrote all our accounts at that time. And gradually things changed. I got my own desk, which came from a school, and we had to get the joiner in to put blocks on the bottom of it so it would reach past my legs, over my knees. And that was the start of us going forward into the modern age. And then gradually we got better desks and we moved offices and things became what they are now. But at the very beginning it was very, very like Dickens. When 1974 we had the blackouts and all the rest of it, the power cuts, believe it or not, our general manager went and bought all the candles he could find at the West End, dished out candles, and we worked by candlelight amongst papers, and you would not believe it. And it really was like Dickens. And then the light got too bad and we got to go home. It was incredible. You look back on it and you think that's the way it was, and you accepted it. Health and safety, never gave it a thought. We would leave the room and the candle would be burning, and then we would come back and carry on doing our accounts and all the rest of it. And then once we had done our accounts and written them all up, our typist would then type the accounts, we would then compare them, and then they were all ready to go out the office, and she would actually sew them up, and then they would go out the office to the clients and all the rest of it. It was a great experience, a great learning curve, that's for sure.
And presumably you saw other technological advancements and modern things coming into the workplace as well.
Oh yes, yeah, well we started to get computers and we had to learn from scratch until at the end, when I retired, as I say, 2013, we were using Excel, we were using all the computers. I started with pen and ink, and the only thing that the office gave you for free was ink. You went along to the cash room and there was the big bottles of Quink ink, and you filled up your inkwell with that and you just wrote away. That was the only thing you gave us. It was fantastic when we actually had a general manager. Apart from giving us candles, we got paper clips, we got rubber bands. All that stuff was not available. We had a senior partner who everybody thought was mean, but he wasn't mean. He was the first person I ever come across who recycled everything. Every elastic band that arrived on his desk, he recycled that. Every paper clip, he recycled it. He would come down and leave it on your desk for you. He was incredible. And everybody said that there's something wrong with this chap because he won't throw anything away. But he simply just recycled everything.
Kind of ahead of his time, in a way.
Well ahead of his time. Christmas paper, if he got a Christmas gift from a client, he'd go into the postage room where all the girls worked and that, and he'd give them the Christmas paper so that they could use it for their presents. He was amazing, the guy. And the biggest gentleman that I ever came across. He was fantastic. He absolutely, his manners, he was impeccable.
So you've mentioned one of your colleagues there. So what I'm also interested about in terms of your working life is your colleagues and the way you socialise together. You know,
yes.
What did you do for kind of lunches or after work, that kind of thing?
We all had all sorts of different things. When it was Christmas time, would be something like 3 different Christmas parties went on in the office, and if you ran out of booze at one, you just went and joined somebody else's. We had a collection, we'd collect £1.50 or whatever it would be, and we'd go out and buy drink and all the rest of it, and it would finish at lunchtime and we'd have these parties. Everybody was really quite sociable. At the time, the office put on proper Christmas dance, or not a Christmas dance, the dance would be in January. It was in what used to be the Quick and 20 restaurant, which is South Charlotte Street. And for me, coming out of Granton and all the rest of it, this was something to behold, because you actually had somebody calling out your name. They actually had somebody standing there saying, Mr. Williamson, and you would have to shake hands with the senior partner. Very, very, very formal. And we had that every year. and the invitations would be gold-leafed. It was quite incredible. It was a different world. I mean, I took to it like a duck to water. I mean, I came out of Granton and went to the Wardy Hotel for a pint, everything like that, and you did not meet these kind of people in the Wardy Hotel. Just a different people. But then you moved up and you were dealing with lords and stuff like that, and it was fine. I used to play rugby, and my senior partner at that time, I used to go in the mark on a Monday, a wee bit the worse for wear and tear, having played rugby, and I would get, I see, Williamson, you've been playing rugger again at the weekend. Jolly good sport, jolly good game. And if I got hurt, which I did, but I never missed my work, I was okay, because everybody played rugby or cricket or whatever, you know. It's just a different era. And then gradually you could see the changes coming in.
Did working in that sphere then, did it open up new things for you?
Yeah, you saw the world in a different way. I hope it's never changed me. You know, I've had to deal with judges, lawyers, all the rest of it, but I've always tried to be grounded and say, I came from Granton. I've never ever tried to be something I'm not and never would be. You saw things differently. Our general duties manager, he lived in the office. He lived actually in the basement. And I always remember going down the stairs to the photocopier, which was kept in the basement, and smelling mince and ties, because his wife was cooking his dinner. And I turned the wrong way and ended up in their house instead of ending up where the photocopier was. And Mr. Hodge, he was an amazing character, and he stoked. We had a boiler down the stair, coal-fire boiler, which he stoked with coal that was delivered to the office, if you could imagine that, in 1968. And when he was on holiday, I got the job in a full suit, collar and tie, stoking the boiler for the heating for the office. Incredible times. I ended up more or less a social worker towards the end, putting people into care, selling their houses, clearing their houses, and generally looking after them, because a lot of the elderly clients had no family left, and we were their only next to kin, as it were. It was all part of the job, and whatever the client wanted, we did it. It was never a problem. In fact, it was actually easier working with people who told you what they wanted and saying, I would like this, would like that, and all the rest of it. Yeah, we did. We did all sorts of different things. We had one client, I think it's the first time ever that we actually got a dog in a nursing home. The dog went in the nursing home with a lady. I managed to persuade the nursing home to take the dog as well. And the staff walked the dog, and the dog lived in the nursing home with the lady. And everybody was quite happy. You could almost do anything as long as you approached it the right way. We had all sorts of stuff. There was a chap who was a great railway enthusiast and stuff. I even got a train set up in his room for him. We did it all. But unfortunately, times have moved on, and I don't think work's like that anymore.
Sounds like you have a very kind of compassionate side. Maybe the general impression of like accountants or people who do books is that they're all a bit thorough and they just do the job as it is and is required. But it sounds like you've got a penchant for human nature as well, and kind of like wanting to kind of go a bit further for folk.
I managed to hide for years the fact that I was an accountant. I was quite proud of that. Nobody in the rugby club knew I was an accountant. I was quite happy about that because, you know, accountant, as you say. But there's humour in everything. And people want, even at the worst circumstances, as it were, there's always humour. There's always somebody, as long as somebody's there to help and understand, you know, what's going on and all the rest of it. And as I say, a lot of the elderly people didn't have anybody else. I must admit, it's quite heartbreaking when you cleared the house and a person's whole life came down to a couple of plastic bags. That's quite sad. You know, sometimes that kind of got to you a wee bit. You know, you think this person has been somebody, and then this is all that remains. It's all they've got left, you know. But I always made sure they were in a nursing home. I always made sure they were looked after, and I always tried to visit them as much as I could. I used to go to the tea parties in the afternoon. I always remember I went along to one, and it was very hot. And I don't have a lot of hair on my head. And this old lady gave me a straw hat. So there I was, from the legal office, in a suit, collar and tie, sitting with a straw hat on, because the old lady thought I was getting too hot. Unbelievable. We did everything. I did accounts, I bought and sold stocks and shares, I dealt with insurance, I dealt with everything. That was your job. You were told to do it. You worked for about 15 partners, so everybody gave you a different job, and you did it. But then they started bringing in departments, and once they started bringing in departments, the departments got upset if you did something that they should have been doing, and so on.
It must have been more like a family, a family firm.
Oh yeah, definitely a family. Yeah, all the partners, they were all family. You could speak to everybody. And then they brought in, there was no office manager. What happened was the junior partner, he or she, became the staff partner. That was the one who employed me, although they had no knowledge of employment law or nothing or anything. That was, you're the junior partner, so you've got to interview people. And that's how it worked. I mean, my contract's on a piece of paper, which is not even a full scrap piece of paper, and said I would be starting at £6 a week. And the bottom line was, you may be asked to work on a Saturday. And that was the contract I had right for 45 years. I had no CV. I never needed a CV. I was employed, and that was it. And that went all the way through. And when I did eventually retire, they kind of looked at my contract and thought, oh, it's a piece of paper. And they said, when do you want to retire? I said, well, when can I? You can go any time you want. Because I had nothing, there was nothing binding. There was no working 6 weeks, there was no working 4 weeks, there was no anything. In fact, there's the door, get your hat and away you go, you know.
What did retirement bring, and how do you fill your time now that you're not working?
Well, retirement brought a very good party when I retired. It was a tremendous party, everybody enjoyed it. I was already dabbling in other things, so to me work was somewhere to go during the day. It kind of saved my electricity bill. I was already involved in trains and stuff like that and everything like that, and as soon as I went out the door, that was it. Although I still do accounts, I still do charity work, I still have a lot to do with Parkinson's, Edinburgh, and I still do various charity accounts. I've never not kept my hand in doing accounts. I've written 2 books, a third one on its way, so I've got an awful lot to keep me amused. And people have said that to me, do you look back? I said, well, yeah, it was good fun, but that door shut, and I've never really looked back. But I still keep in touch with all my ex-colleagues, still have Christmas parties, we still go out. I don't think it's like that nowadays in the offices. I know COVID didn't help and all the rest of it, but we, the same motley crew, those who are still surviving, still meet up, still go out.
What advice would you give to a young person who's about to go into the world of work?
Basically, sit down, shut up and just watch what's going on and then adapt from there. Don't go in and think you're going to change the world. Just be part of it and enjoy it. Simple as that. Just observe everything. Take everything in. That's what I did. I just watched everybody and adapted accordingly. The one thing which might be of interest is that when I did retire, they had a collection for me and all that kind of stuff. And they asked me what I wanted, and I told them. I was presented with a Lego train set when I retired. Why they give people watches when they retire is beyond me. You're fed up looking at clocks, you're fed up looking at time, but they persist in presenting people with a watch. I said, no thank you. So I got a Lego train set. And the people at the party, some of the partners who never knew me and stuff like that, thought, why is he getting a Lego train set? Because that's what he wanted. And that was it, finito. My 45 years in the legal profession ended with a Lego train set, and I thought you couldn't get any more fitting than that. I was delighted.
Ken, thank you so much for sharing your work history and experience with us today. It's been an absolutely fascinating conversation. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The Living Memory Association would like to thank Ken for sharing his working life memories with us, and to the City of Edinburgh Council's Edinburgh 900 Fund for supporting this project. You can listen to all our other podcasts on our web platform, www.thelivingmemoryassociation.libsyn.com. Libsyn is spelled Libsyn. Or you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, or on our Facebook page. Come and visit our WE museums at Ocean Terminal Leith and at the Centre Livingston. And you can find lots more content on our social media pages: Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. See you again soon.